Hello again, Struck Quap. Today I'm bringing you another build video for Torchlight 3 Early Access stage, and this one is kind of like 2.0 of my Piercing Light build from before the relics change, but this is a relic ready code hard piercing code build. So I decided to just call it the Piercing Code Dusk Mage code hard build instead of Piercing Light 2.0 to avoid any confusion. But yeah, this is kind of like retaining as much as possible the setup, the gameplay, the playstyle of the Piercing Light, retaining that relic we were using, the Code Hard relic, but also leaning into the Code Hard a little bit more than before, because well, before we had 50 separate points for the relic. Now they're sharing our total skill points, so I'm definitely suggesting using or swatting into the Legendarium the +2 skill levels, chest and helmet, mask. My idea would be wear the mask, wear the gauntlets of the Celestial set, wear the boots, and then either wear the Celestial set or swat it in the Legendarium. The build is fun, it's all about piercing, it's all about Holy Bolt or Absolver. I decided to use the Arc of Light in this one and show it to you. In the previous one I didn't have it when I was making and the Piercing Light build. I didn't have the item, so I couldn't show you that playstyle, and I was using Absolver on my skill bar. Now I'm actually using Holy Bolt to cast Absolver, and it's fun. Right now Snowstorm is broken, so I'm not using Snowstorm, although I probably would start using it when they fix it for that extra damage buff and for that extra damage. So keep in mind I'm playing on the test server and I'm playing on practice, but I'm gonna be testing this on ridiculous once I hit 60. I think the damage is nice. I'm already seeing 400,000 crit damage even with shitty lower level items. So let's show you the skills and then the gear next. Now let's talk about the skill points allocation for this build. First of all, I'd like to mention that I'm 57, so I would mention how to spend the points. I've got a few screenshots that you would be seeing on the screen, which would kind of show you level 60 or 59 skill point allocation, because in some cases the last point I've left out of the equation, so people can just spend it however. There are various things you can consider, but first things first. Right now Snowstorm is broken. Not only does it only do 1 damage, it also doesn't give you the damage buff. I strongly suggest when this is fixed to experiment at least 6 levels. 6 levels into Snowstorm seems like a good idea. And keep in mind that if you go for 6 levels into Snowstorm, this would need to be level 3 or level 0. Because right now I'm 3 points missing, so let's say I put those 3 points into Snowstorm, and then I would need 3 more points, meaning I can probably keep that at level 1 or at level 0. If that's level 0, that gives me 3 more points for Snowstorm and 1 leftover point. Let's say I don't want Snowstorm because it's broken now. I would probably put 2 more points into Ice Shield just to get the piercing icicles, and that leaves 1 point left over to put wherever you want. You can put it here, but I think the best place maybe to put it might be Absolver, because even though Holy Bolt, I've tested it, even though Holy Bolt does not seem to be doing upgraded Absolver casts, in regards to, it doesn't seem to be doing Absolver missiles travel further. I have tested it before this update. I've not tested it after the update, whether putting 3 points into Absolver would give me the further travel, but it does increase in damage. The Absolvers you cast with the piercing and the Arc of Light. The Arc of Light casts Absolver, and if you put levels into Absolver, the damage you do with the proccing ones would be higher damage. So when I'm doing this and you see Absolver cast next to my Holy Bolt, then those Absolvers would be higher damage. So 1 point there would make it do a little bit more damage. Another option would be getting this to level 4. And you're only using it for the passive, and then just using Absolver on its own, and that means you won't need to be using the Arc of Light. Another version would be to spend only 3 points here, and the last 4 points can go here for crit hit chance for light skills. Because you would be using this often and it would be critting often with that one. Another option would be, instead of 4 points for crit chance for light skills, to go crit chance for dark skills with 4 points into entropy. But you're not using this as much, or this. This one we're only using it to build up the light bar, and this one also helps. This one is on a 4-second cooldown. If you don't think you want that much dark damage, you can remove the points from here and put them here, and then still have 4 points here as well. I mean, there's a lot of ways to change this. You can even go for consecration. You can even go for consecration 4 points, or even 1 point into consecration. It's not bad. If you wanna use it, you can kind of maybe stop using this one and only use it for the passive and have consecration, or stop using this one. There's many ways to do it, but I think the most important things is 4 points here, 4 points here, 8 points here, 4 points here for the mana regen, 4 points here for the energy charge rate, which is kind of optional based on your personal choice. I think you need at least 4 points here, but I strongly suggest putting 8, so you can get that maxed out damage and the final bonus. And this is again optional. I like using it to help me build up the dark bar. Now that we've talked about the other skills, let's move on to the relic ones. Frostblast I like to max out. I love it. So with that relic energy cost, you can do without any cost reduction. Right now I don't have any cost reduction other than this 50%, and that means with 100 energy I can cast this skill 8 times. 8 times in a consecutive cast. Right now I didn't have full energy, so I couldn't, but yeah, I actually did it with something that was reducing the energy cost to like 11 point something. I managed to do 9 consecutive casts, because as I'm hitting enemies it's also gaining some energy back, so it's pretty fun. This one I use as a 1-pointer. You could try and use it as maybe 6 points for the tier 2 bonus, but I think even 1 point is pretty decent. This one I think is a must-have if you want to be doing relic based damage often. I think it's a must-have to have those 5 points. This is super underwhelming with 70 seconds cooldown. Even if you get the cooldown down to like 35 seconds, it's still underwhelming, and this one is underwhelming because it requires this, so I'm hoping that they would consider reworking Breaking Point and Frost Skin to not be this underwhelming. I mean, look at that, this prevents all damage from a single hit. This prevents 3 sources of damage. And this one has 20-second cooldown, this one is 70 seconds. This one is active, of course, but you can keep it up all the time if you constantly cast it every 20 seconds. Whereas this one is automatic, and even if you get the cooldown down with that recharge rate, it's still not gonna feel right. I still don't think with the 50% recharge rate we can get by maxing this one, it's gonna be actually better. And this one, it's okay, but I guess you have to be using an ice weapon to get the most out of this. For example, if you had a very good staff that does ice damage and more ice damage and even more ice damage, it's definitely gonna be a nice thing to use, or a rifle. And this passive, you can get that extra damage for relic active skills, which goes to 25% as long as you're wearing a rifle or a pistol. Even if you don't use it for basic attacks, you still get the damage for relic active skills passive, as long as you have rifle or pistol equipped, so something else worth considering. Now, enough of this, I'm gonna tell you some legendary items that I like using in the Legendarium. Arc of Light, I love it. Ebon Grasp, I love it. I'm only using the Celestial Mask because I'm not wearing it, but ideally I would be wearing it, which means you can maybe use Celestial Pants here, or you can use things like the Power Conduit if you want to be stunning. It's kind of underwhelming, but it's not so bad. Arc Power Boots is a good choice. I wouldn't suggest Arc Powered Pants over there. Egg of Mayhem is probably what I would do. I would use Egg of Mayhem instead of the Celestial Mask here, so my perfect synergy would be Arc of Light, Egg of Mayhem, Ebon Grasp in the Legendarium, while using a good blue rifle or staff or greatsword as a stat stick. With right now blue items apparently can drop with 3 sockets, not sure if that's a bug or intended, but if you can get triple socketed two-handed weapon or even one-handed weapon and some triple socketed offhand, it would be very strong because you can get a lot of stats that way. So other things that you can consider if you don't have them would be, well, let's look at the quest things. Other things you could consider is oh, one more thing I need to mention. The way the Legendarium works right now is I can still get +2 to dark skills as long as I have 3 equipped pieces of the set. So ideally you would be wearing Celestial Gauntlets, Celestial Cuirass, Celestial Boots and Celestial Helmet, or you would be actually using the boots in the Legendarium to get blue boots. So as long as you have 3 pieces equipped, you can put 1 piece in the Legendarium and then wear a blue one, which would give you more stats, which adds some more how should I call it, more variety on how to build. But I say Celestial Cuirass, Gauntlets, Boots and Helmet. Maybe wear all 4 of them, maybe wear 3 of them and swat the other one. It's optional, decide what works best for you. There are a few options you can consider to replace the 4th item. I personally probably would try, as I said, using Egg of Mayhem there and use the Celestial Mask, but if I end up not liking the Egg of Mayhem as much, then I would consider swatting the boots over here, so I can still get the bonus but also get boots blue with bonus damage. I've seen blue boots dropping with percent elemental type of damage, which would probably go very well if I get the weapon with some ice damage and then ice percent on the boots and maybe flat ice damage like here on the breeches. But more about gear in the next segment. Let's quickly talk about the pet skills. I like Healing Friendship, Deadlier Strikes, Battle Cry, Screeching Sun. This is my favorite combo for non-summoner builds. When I'm doing summoner builds, I consider replacing Necropupper instead of Screeching or Necropupper instead of Battle Cry. There's not much to talk about pet skills, I mean just use whatever you've got, but eventually I think this is the best aura. But if you're playing with other people, you cannot stack 2 Deadlier Strikes, so when you have 4 people, you can have 1 person with Defender, 1 person with Deadlier Strikes, another one with Running Partner, and the 4th person with Increased Awareness. So you can stack all 4 auras. So that's it for the skills. Let's move on to the gear. Here we are at the gear segment. Keep in mind again, I'm 57 and the gear I've got might be kind of under leveled. This is 46, this is 46, this is 46. So ideally you would probably have, as I said in the previous segment, if you heard it, if you watched all of it, ideally you would have 4 pieces of the Celestial Cuirass or 3 pieces and the 4th one swatted. And the important things, the must-have things are Celestial Gauntlets and Celestial Boots, Celestial Cuirass and Celestial Helmet. So either wear all 4 or wear 3 and put in the Legendarium the 4th one, like I'm doing right now. If you were to put one of them in the Legendarium, I would suggest choose between boots and chest. Chest pieces can definitely roll with flat damage, like this one can roll flat damage, this one can also roll flat damage of a certain element. So probably swatting in the Legendarium the chest might be the best choice. I'm not sure about boots, whether they can go with flat damage rolls, but they can definitely roll with percent ice, percent poison, percent physical, percent fire, etc. damage. So keep that in mind as well. But yeah, probably it's safest to go for swatting the Cuirass. So you can get one with 2 or 3 sockets and that's gonna be great defense. And then for the shoulders, it's probably best to use blue ones because there's so much stats there. But if you want a legendary shoulder suggestion, let's just look at what they do. First of all, Skittering Shoulder is great. It gives you good damage reduction. So 50% damage reduction for 15 seconds. It's definitely something that that is worth considering. The arc-powered shoulders are not so bad. Actually, it's good damage. So if you don't want survivability, that's not bad. For 15 seconds, you can get that 30% movement speed. You can get extra damage. So it's not bad. But that's when you're using Cold Front, which is the big relic activation power. Then, as I said, the Skittering Shoulders. This 50% damage reduction field on the ground for 15 seconds. So it requires you to stand in that place, in that spot. And then the Wood Beast is definitely something I wouldn't recommend for this build as a shoulder. Now this brings us to legs. I would suggest blue, but if you really want to see what the others do, this is the Wood Beast. Definitely not for this build. Ice Golem right now seems broken. I can't get it to do the slamming animation. Then Skittering Legs again, Ice Golem, I wouldn't suggest that since it requires Ice Golem. And then Arc Powered Legs again, it requires Ice Golem, so I wouldn't suggest using those. So definitely use blue legs. And I would suggest as well blue chest or blue helmet if you're swatting one item. Or blue boots actually. I would prefer wearing the Celestial helmet, Celestial Gauntlets, and one of those being blue, then this being blue and this being blue. Blue weapon, definitely find yourself a very good two-handed weapon with 2 or 3 sockets, and get those sockets to give you flat damage of the type you want to be stacking. Then if you want a one-handed weapon, find a good one that gives you nice flat damage or crit chance. Things like that would go very well. And then either an offhand that gives you damage like this one, or an offhand that gives you enough mana again, but make sure you have sockets. Even a shield is a very good choice if you want defense. Chance to block is great, chance to evasion is great as stats. See, this one could have another socket, maybe even 3 sockets now with the patch. So it's up to you whether you want more damage or a little bit more the defensive powers. Stats to look after, as I said, evasion, block chance, crit damage, then flat damage definitely, percent damage definitely, relic energy generation, cost reduction for relic skills as well, a great stat to consider. I would avoid anything with basic attacks, and I would avoid bonuses to damage of skills you don't use. Cold Front I do use, so I actually benefit from that. So anything that boosts a skill you're not using, avoid it. For the pet, I would say Dryad's Neckband is amazing because it can heal you. I don't have it equipped, but I can show you what it looks like. Dryad's Neckband, this one. 3% for both you and the pet getting healed when the pet hits. Then attack speed for the pet is great, so the faster the pet hits, the more it will heal with the Dryad's Neckband. And that pretty much, I think, sums it up. I must have missed something, I must have not said something, so pardon me if I did. Another trick that you might consider is you can find a helmet, blue one, with +1 to a specific skill level. And if you already have the chest, gauntlets and boots, and then like me you're wearing the Celestial Mask, that can give you 1 extra skill point to work with, and that could open up some interesting build combinations. So I think that's pretty much it for the gear. Next, let's show you some more gameplay and talk about how I play the build and how I do my rotations in the current version. So this is it, the segment where I talk about how I play the build, where I show you some gameplay, where I talk about rotations. You can see that It's pretty fun. If you save up your energy and don't use it at the same time, like if you wait to get 100 energy, you can end up having 8, 9, in certain cases I've even reached 11 consecutive frost blasts, which is pretty great. You would need that tier 3 on frost blast though, and you would really need extra cost reduction and recharge rate from items, but it works, it's good, it's fun. And when they fix Snowstorm, I would be slightly modifying the setup, probably getting at least 1 or 3 or 6 points. At first I'm probably gonna try with 6 points into Snowstorm when it's fixed, but it's basically you keeping your distance and using your Holy Bolt to build up the Dark Bar, and using Dark Spears and Energy Spike to build up the Yellow Bar. And when you have both the Dark Charged and the Light Charged, both buffs, you get a ton of extra damage. You get 200% of extra damage. Yes, you do get extra mana cost, but it's worth it. It is worth it, and with the current setup where I'm using Ice Shield, you can just activate it when there's a lot of enemies and you can just run around and things would die. Especially if you get it with the piercing, which I will be getting once this is 60. With the piercing, it would be fun. It would be fun to just randomly run around with Luminous Run or teleport with Shadow Step and just get the enemies piercing. Save up your big relic activation. Save up Code Front for elites and bosses. Or use it, I mean, it's whatever you prefer. If you prefer to just constantly use it as soon as it's ready, yeah, of course you can use it. It's not gonna be a bad decision. You can see I've reswatted my number 6 skill to the thumb button, or no, actually that's my number 5 to the thumb button, and with my mouse thumb I'm just using light spears every now and then when they're lined up for extra damage. You can, if you only want Luminous Run or only want Shadow Step, you can use that and then maybe add Damnation, because we've got 4 points into it in any case, so it's definitely nice having that. So in general the build really can be bursty if you save the mana. I don't play it bursty, I just constantly keep casting when it's ready Icicle when there's a lot of enemies with my left click. You can see just now I did like 330,000 damage, and earlier there was a case where I did 440, so that's with a level 59 staff on a level 57 map, which I think the 57 map probably allows me to use up to 58, or maybe it's 59, I'm not sure, but still I'm at level 56 in this map here, and 440 damage was at 57, and yeah, definitely the damage can be high. On practice and normal I could do 1,600,000, which in ridiculous translated to 600,000 before the relic update. I think you can reach the same numbers now, so it's still gonna be viable for ridiculous. Seeing the numbers right now, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be fine. There's not much of a change, just slightly different crit chance for our skills, but the damage is still kind of the same. I try to keep it as close as possible to the previous setup, to the piercing light. So I hope you really enjoyed all of that information. So this pretty much sums up the build. If you'd like to get notified when I upload more content, you can subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss the content update notifications. The content you would expect to see on my channel is builds and guides and info news videos, as well as other type of content for wooters of all sorts, RPGs, ARPGs, tactical RPGs, shooter wooters, and other things in between. Thanks for watching, keep it cool, Struck Up, and until next time.